K-Rock Midnight Rock Reviews Marmy Rock Show. We are at Rockfest 2016. I got Dellacoma Rio. Del, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to see you guys.
So, man, I was so glad to see you announced on this bill. And so reflect on the festival a little bit. What do you think of this place?
I love this festival. It's really cool. It's got a real sort of family vibe about it, but it's also run very, very professionally, which is always fun when, as a band, when you come in and a festival is actually run, properly, and you know exactly where you need to go, and things are on time and all that sort of stuff. So it's good.
So what are you guys up to, man? Besides like coming over to the U.S. and touring a bunch of dates?
Well, we've got we've actually got 2 Australian tours planned. So we're going to spend the Australian summer, which is actually around Christmas. We're going to tour in December and January. We're working on a new album. We're about halfway through writing. And actually in a couple of days we're going to finish up the writing process and then hopefully record that through the rest of this year. We're recording a new single, and this is an exclusive first time, recording a new single in Boston in about 3 weeks. Converse, the shoe company, is paying for us to record a single. And then we're going to do our first European tour in March next year.
Where in Europe are you going?
I'm not allowed to say what festival we're on yet, but we are on a festival in the UK in March, and we'll be going to Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and then obviously the UK.
So talk about the whole festival vibe. I mean, like, people think you come to a festival and it's like you play and it's all this good stuff, but it's a lot of downtime, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of sort of like go, but then like wait. There's a lot of times you try and plan stuff, so you're like, oh, I'll get on stage, then I'll get off stage, I'll go to see this interview, but then you end up talking to somebody, and then you're trying to get all the way to the other side of a festival you've never been to before in like 5 minutes when there's a lot of people here. But I enjoy festivals because there's that intense element where you sort of do everything, and then you can just kind of hang out and chill. And sometimes, you play club shows, you might get done there at like 3 a.m. And even though this may go till 3 a.m., sort of the last at least 6 or 7 hours of that are just hanging out, which is fun.
So, we love watching you, run around and go crazy. We watched your set tonight, you ran all over the bar and everywhere else. So, are you in trouble?
Yes, it does. I played a different festival in Wisconsin, and we were playing the main stage, hopped off stage and ran around the entire perimeter, and I was pretty beat at the end of it because it was a lot bigger than it looked from the stage. But when we came back the next year, they told us, you're not allowed to do that, and they had security with orders already, because I kind of got them by surprise the first time.
So what's the wildest thing you've done? You run around, every time we see you run around and do something crazy. What's the wildest thing you've done that you can tell? I'm a PG-13 show, so...
Man, I've done some wild stuff. Most of them involve jumping or running, but probably, I jumped off of a stage in Utah that was literally made out of a shipping container. So it was 2 shipping containers put on top of each other.
Oh my goodness.
High. And I'm going to say that's the craziest thing, because most times when I jump, it's impulsive, and then I hit the ground and either it hurts or it doesn't hurt or whatever, or I feel it later. This one, I jumped, and I remember thinking in midair, this is really high, because I have the time to think about the fact that it's really high before I hit the ground.
Is that when you sprained the ankle?
No, I actually sprained my ankle walking across the road in New York.
Okay.
How does that happen? I jump off the stage all the time, and I sprain my ankle walking across the road in New York City at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
So do you get a chance to see any bands?
Yeah, well, I'm really keen to watch Alice in Chains. I haven't really looked at the schedule before that, purely because I don't know what my schedule is going to be like before that. By the time they get on, I'm going to be done and dusted. But we've got a few bands here that are friends, like Station are good friends, And I know a couple of other people in a couple of different bands. The bass player is playing for Scott Stapp. I've met him a couple times as well, so I'll probably come over and check them out as well, So we'll sort of see how it goes, see where I'm at, and see who's playing when I don't have to do anything.
So we've been following Like a Storm for a long time from New Zealand. I know it's not Australia or different countries, but you're coming over here. Like, how tough is it to break into the U.S. market coming from Australia?
It is, but I think the hardest part about America, I think, is the fact that it's what I call the Walmart model. They sort of have started applying that to sort of everything, where it's like one size sort of fits all, you know. And so a lot of radio stations, they can only play what their head office says. So unless you're in with one radio station, you can't get played on hundreds or thousands of others. So I found that tough, because the mentality would be, you know, that if you go and play an area and the locals like you and you play big shows there, that the local radio station would play you. But there are some areas that that's not the case, because they're programmed from somewhere else in the country, you know, probably from LA or New York or something, you know. So I find that part of it hard. As far as actually touring, it's like, compared to Australia, you know, fuel, like gas is cheap, food's cheap over here, so touring is cheaper, which then means it's easier to just hit the road and go. And you got a lot of people here, so when people say back home, they go, oh, you know, when you go to America, what's it like? I'm like, man, when you play the backwoods of Mississippi on a Tuesday night, and they say you have to go on after 2 a.m. because they get all the casino crowd from the Gulf, and that's when they get busy on a Tuesday at 2 a.m. That's completely different to playing Los Angeles, or playing New York City, or playing Florida, or playing Wisconsin, you know. So I enjoy the diversity. I think with America, the thing is too, is you've got to, and I mean, I'm acting like I know something, I really don't, but there's so many people here, and there's so many bands trying to come here. You've got to be consistent, you know. You've got to make sure that people, oh yeah, I saw those guys last year or last month or whatever. And some bands, they'll spend all this money and come over here and they won't come back for another 2 or 3 years. And people that are into going to see bands, they've seen that many bands since then. They might remember you, but they might not.
Right.
So, like, for me, your trademark is your energy on stage. Where does that come from? Like, when you grew up and you were watching bands, is there somebody you emulate, or, like, does that just come from the heart?
Just from the heart, man. Like, honestly, like, when a lot of people get my influences, a lot of people are very surprised of who I'm influenced by.
So tell us.
Well, a lot of people straight off the bat assume that I grew up sort of as a glam kid and all that sort of stuff, and a lot of people see a bit of like David Lee Roth or Ozzy Osbourne in there. And honestly, I started like listening to them as an adult, like as a kid. I'm gonna give away my age kinda here, but you know, I grew up listening to sort of mid-90s stuff. So I was into like I was into Temple of the Dog, I was into Mother Love Bone, I was into early Chili Peppers. I grew up on a small island off the south coast of Australia, so it took a long time for music to get there. I'm into the Used, I'm into AFI, a lot of bands that people didn't realize, probably doesn't necessarily translate on stage. I got into Guns N' Roses, blasphemy I know, but because of Velvet Revolver. Because I'm a massive Stone Temple Pilots fan.
Not blasphemy, by the way. I'm good with that.
Massive Stone Temple Pilots fan, and when Scott was in Velvet Revolver, everybody's heard of Guns N' Roses, but I got into them more because of that. I would say my main influences, the obvious one is Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. When I say that, people go, well, yeah, duh, you know, but my personal influences are probably Scott Weiland, you know, Stone Temple Pilots, Steven Tyler, Aerosmith, Chris Cornell. I love Audioslave. I'm a big Rage Against the Machine fan. So when you ask about energy, it's funny because a lot of the music I grew up listening to, I grew up listening to a lot of Chicago and the Bee Gees, which is left field, you know, and a lot of Australian bands you've never heard of. But the energy, I think, comes from, I remember being like a young kid and seeing a video of Rage Against the Machine for the first time and going, wow, like there's so much, even when they're not moving a lot, there's just this energy to it. And that really impacted me. Early Pearl Jam, again, the same thing. There's this energy that's created on stage. And then as I started being in different bands, I sort of started playing music around the like Franz Ferdinand era. If you know who they are.
No.
It's kind of when like shoegaze was coming in, and it's dance, early Maroon 5.
Okay.
That was when my musical career started, and I remember
Maroon 5 played rock and roll like before they
did.
switched. I hate to say it, but
They did. So their first album, when that first album came out, that's Matchbox 20.
yep.
So I mean, they debuted right when I was getting into music. But when I was sort of starting playing music seriously, a lot of music didn't have. I liked the songs, but then I'd see stuff and it just wouldn't make me move. But then there's other stuff that's like way older that'd make my hips move and just make me move. And so then I just kind of I guess I write. And it's a collaborative process, but the music that I get into and that I like to play, I can't do something if I don't like it. And I've been asked to join different bands by friends, and I've been like, there's no way of delicately putting this. I'm not saying your music is bad, but I'm saying it doesn't move me. And if it doesn't move me, I can't do what I do.
Well, everything you said translate amazingly on stage. Like we were talking tonight, we don't see you all that often, but like when we do, we're like, wow.
You're one of the wow bands.
The wow bands, yeah. Like we said that tonight.
Yeah.
And like watching you run around, it was like so much fun tonight. So you guys are so talented. So Dellacoma, thanks, man. Thanks for being here. We always appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your support.